if you're becoming anxious quite a lot of the time, it's rather like having a rev meter in the red all the time you're driving. Sooner or later, your engine's going to blow up.
Right, Andrew, thank you so much. I really been looking forward to this one.
Good. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off just by explaining a little bit as to how I come across yourself. It's gone back a few years that I had this lady I was doing driving lessons with, and she was having some trouble, you know, with her confidence or being able to perform, you know, especially under mock test conditions. And she had tried numerous instructors over the years, and I remember thinking, well, I'll help you. And I couldn't do anything different. And I remember her saying, I've come across this, I think it was a Groupon deal. And she says, what do you think? And I just remember saying, can't hurt, right? So she went and contacted yourself. I think it was 3 sessions she had.
Would be.
And I just remember the next time we'd done the mock test, it was a different person. It was a different person altogether. But because of that, we put her in for a real test. And she not only did she pass it, she got a clean sheet, no recorded faults at all. Very rare.
Yeah.
And this was someone who had been trying for an awful lot of years. So skip forward to years later, me having this set up here, and I'm thinking about interesting guests to have on, and you popped it in my head. And I thought, right, the only way I can get in touch with you, because I didn't have your details, was to go onto my Facebook, find the lady, message her out of the blue. Had no idea how many years it had been. I knew it was a while, and hope that she had your details. She did. Then I got in touch with you, we spoke, and you said that you'd come on.
Yeah.
That is how I've got you here. I remember asking, did you hear back from her? And she hadn't been back in touch, so you didn't know that it had made a difference. But it really did.
Great. Yeah.
Amazing. So I have got a bunch of questions here. I'm so curious about a lot of this stuff. So starting at the beginning, how long have you been a hypnotist?
About 15 years. 15 years. I used to be a teacher beforehand, and then had some health issues, and I was told I need to do something a bit less stressful.
I've said to the people about what you've done for the lady. I'll not mention her name.
No.
What is there different services that you offer?
I offer a wide range of services. There's different types of hypnosis. The most common one that most people will understand is anxiety, building confidence, increasing self-esteem, weight loss. There used to be a lot of people wanting to stop smoking, but most people who want to stop have stopped. Now, you get a few people coming to stop vaping.
Right.
And variations on all of that. But the biggest area is sort of anxiety.
Yeah, so that's probably the most common one you get is anxiety and confidence building. And I guess that is a big part of, in terms of learning to drive, it's one of the things that I find the most difficult to help them out. I've said for years now that as a driving instructor, we can do little bits and bobs of confidence building. But I do feel that there's something missing, something that we just can't help them with, something that either people just have to deal with on their own or they need to find help somewhere else. It's interesting. I have said that for a while, and then when that lady had that success after seeing you, I was like, I was right. Yeah. This is something that's needed.
Oh, that's very true, because as you're aware, the Department of Transport, whoever it is that makes statistics for driving tests, they will say, the principal reason for people failing their driving test is because at a junction they didn't go off properly or whatever it is. So it's all technical stuff. But there has been some research, not much, some research into the underlying reason why they made those technical mistakes. And that is to do with anxiety. Because when we feel anxious about something, it not only affects the way we think and our ability to think, because it actually, when we become anxious about something, our ability to think narrows. But it also has a physical effect on us. And so if you're becoming anxious quite a lot of the time, it's rather like having a rev meter in the red all the time you're driving. Sooner or later, your engine's going to blow up or there's going to be problems.
Yeah.
And so that's what happens, because, I don't know, you can be anxious and your legs shaking and on the clutch or the accelerator or something, and you come up to, I don't know, a roundabout, and one is you a bit hesitant so you don't move when the gap's there, or your foot goes down and you jump a bit, whatever it might be, to do with the fact that you're actually anxious. And basically anxiety and confidence are like two ends of the same seesaw. So when confidence is up, anxiety is down, and vice versa. And the interesting thing about anxiety is you're effectively a clairvoyant because you're predicting the future. It could be a second in the future, it could be a minute. You're going, what if? I'm coming up to that junction. I failed last time at that junction. It's going to happen again. I know. And so that's what usually happens. And so what I do and other people like me do is you get to work on what you want to happen, not what you feel will happen. And so there's a technical sort of term, in a sense. There's a French guy about 120 years ago called Émile Coué. By the way, if you ever want to find out if anybody's French, ask them if they've heard of Émile Coué. If they have, they're usually French. If they haven't, they're not French. And today we call him a sort of psychologist. And he was interested in the power of suggestion. And he came up with 3 laws. Now, I have no idea how you come up with a law, or even what a law is, basically. But he came up with 3 laws. And one of these is called the law of reversed effect. And it basically says where will and imagination, or for our terms, where fact and imagination are in opposition to each other, imagination wins 99% of the time. So to give you a sort of an example of that, you have plenty of people that you've taught to drive that are really good drivers, but like that lady you talked about, when it comes to an exam situation, whether it be the mock exam or the real thing, the imagination takes over. And the imagination then is the anxiety, because it's going, what if this happens? What if I'm not good enough? Fear of judgment, all that sort of stuff. And that overrides the fact that she's a great driver.
So is it a bit like your mind is almost trying to help you by alerting you to possible danger ahead or something that could go wrong? But by doing that, it's making it worse for you.
Well, in one respect, yes. It's not that your mind is trying to alert you to any any particular danger as such. It's just magnifying the fact that you think there's danger. So therefore, or you can't do it, or you won't be able to do it in the right way. I'm going to give you a really daft example here. Imagine in this room here, there's a plank of wood, and it's about that wide apart. It's about that thick. I forget this sounds daft. Okay. Now, if I asked you to stand on that plank of wood, do you think you could stand on a plank of wood?
Well, take my weight?
Yeah, it will take your weight. Yeah, so you can stand on that plank of wood. It's on the ground. It's standing on a plank of wood. So after about 20 minutes, and you're doing this interview, but standing on the plank of wood, and after about 20 minutes, you feel so relaxed. You've got over the sort of oddness of it, and you're feeling relaxed, and you might start peeling oranges or juggling or something like that. No problem. And then I say, right, okay, Gary, what we're going to do now is we'll just use remote mics and stuff like that, and we're going to take that plank of wood and we're going to go outside and we're going to put it 100 meters in the air, and I want you to stand on it. How do you think you would feel about that?
I think I'd say no to that one.
That's a really good answer. A really good answer. So anyway, just imagine managed to get you up there. And you're standing up there and you sort of look down to one side and you go, oh my gosh, I could fall. So you sway away from it. And then you look down the other side and you go, oh my gosh, I could fall down there. So you sway back. And the more you sway, the more you think you're going to fall. And the more you think you're going to fall, the more you sway. Until you fall off. And the only reason you've fallen off is because you thought you would fall off.
So you thought it would happen, so it did happen.
So it did happen. But the fact is that you'd spent 20 minutes standing on that piece of wood without the slightest hint of a wobble. But as soon as your imagination came into play, I might fall off. You fell off.
I get that. And is that fairly typical for most people, that that's just how the brain works?
It does, to the extent we all suffer from that in some way, if that's the right word, suffer. But the thing is knowing that happens.
Is that an advantage, just being aware of that, so that you can somehow...
You change the way you think about it.
Right.
So the way we think about something affects how we respond.
I think I play golf most weeks, and I think about what I probably should be thinking is visualising a nice straight shot down the fairway. Instead, I find myself thinking, right, there's trees there, don't hit the trees, don't... Where does it go?
That's right. I should also add that one of the other things I do, and I work with sports people, golf being a major one, because 95% of golf is played in the head.
Yep.
And you're exactly right. It's visualize what you want to happen, not what you feel will happen. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, it takes a little bit of practice, because you spent so many years doing the reverse. Oh, I hope I don't hit that tree. There's people watching me. What will they think if it goes off there? That sort of thing.
Yeah, that's it. That you're right. It is a huge part of the game, because you can hit some really good shots, which means you've got the ability, the physical ability, but mentally needs a bit of work, probably.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah. Are some people? You said earlier about you sort of have to be, because the question is, are some people not suitable for hypnotism? Is that maybe they just don't believe in it, as in you've got to be open to try it? Or
basically anybody can be hypnotised, sort of technically. However, some people choose not to be, because, as you say, you actually have to be open to it, because I can't make you do anything you don't want to do. So, in effect, if you're not willing to take part in it, I suppose in a sense it's a bit like if somebody comes to you and says, I want to learn to drive, but they don't want to get in the car, then it's a bit hard to teach them how to drive. Though you could do it intellectually, but it's only when they get in the car that they know actually how to drive. So if somebody really doesn't want to take part in it, then it's not going to happen. There's also, if somebody came to me that was willing to take part, however, they were under the influence of alcohol or drugs or had a current sort of psychosis going on, I wouldn't hypnotize them because their imagination could go all over the place. And it wouldn't help. Again, like I mentioned earlier, that I got in touch with the woman's medical team about whether it was okay to hypnotize that person. If somebody did come that had some issue and they were under their doctor, then I would get in touch with them and see if they had any objection to me working with them.
Yeah.
So,
see, I'm going to guess that you get asked this next question a lot, right? TV shows that you see, or maybe on stage, right? Hypnosis. I loved watching those shows as a kid, and I always wondered, how real is this? And on holiday once in Ibiza, after maybe just one or two beers, there was this. We were in a club and there was a hypnotist asking for volunteers. Out of pure curiosity, I says, I'll go, I'll do it.
okay.
And I remember I'm doing this. It was like filtering out people who it wouldn't work on, and eventually it got down to maybe say 5, and I was one of the 5. So I was hypnotised, right? And he had me doing these things, right? I'm into the crowd, I'm getting pieces of like women's clothes and stuff, I'm back at the stage, I'm wearing it, all this stuff, right? And at the end, you know, it's, I don't know, I can't remember, it's long ago, but it was like, you know, 1, 2, 3, wide awake, and I'm like, I'm wearing all this stuff. But through the whole time, I remember I was going along with it, but to this day, what I don't know is, because it didn't feel embarrassing.
Yeah.
Right? I don't, because people say to me, could you not have just sat down halfway through and says, oh, I'm not doing this. I don't know if I could have done that or not.
Well, first of all, the sort of TV shows, I would say that they're all real in the sense that people are hypnotized and so on, but they're very self-selecting in asking for volunteers. So first of all, people are willing to go up. Secondly, when you go up on a show like that, you know the chances are you're going to be asked to do something daft. So therefore, actually having gone up, you're open to it. And so you will do it. But just because you're sort of in a much more relaxed state with the hypnosis, and because of the your willingness to actually do it, then you would do it. And you didn't feel embarrassed because you were okay doing it, because the whole situation as well, if you perhaps went to a show, I don't know, Shakespeare or something like that, and then you started putting women's clothes on, then you probably would have felt differently about it, and you would have felt embarrassed and so on. But because of the whole environment you were in, the setup, all of that, and you were willing to do daft things, that's why you felt comfortable. To come to the thing is, if for some reason you were asked to do something that didn't fit with your own morality or you wanted to do, you wouldn't have done it. So you could have, if they suddenly said, right, okay, now, Gary, start taking all your clothes off. Well, if you didn't want to take your clothes off, you wouldn't do it. Even though you might have done all the other bits and pieces.
And so let's just say that exact example, right? What's the chances somebody would just almost just snap out of it and just say, no, I'm not doing that? I mean, I think that was the question: is can you?
Yeah,
you can just say, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, you, in effect, because I'm just thinking myself, and this is not a stage show. I've had one or two people that halfway in a session, for some reason, well, another reason, they just said, I don't want to do this. And that was fine, because both of those people had actually been bullied by their family into coming because they thought it would be a good idea. And they didn't want to do it.
Right.
And so, no, that's it. And
So
that was actually a good thing for them to do, not to do it because they were bullied into doing it.
So you do still have that control. You're not out of control.
You're not out of control at all. That's one of the big things. It's where this idea about the control came from. Well, certainly in more modern times, in about 70 years more modern time, there was a film, and I think its name was Trilby, and it had a character in it called Svengali, who was sort of wide-eyed and long hair, and basically he would look into my eyes and you're mine type of idea, and sort of do all sorts of nasty things to people. And that was quite a popular film in the late 1940s. And that was the idea of what hypnosis was, and it sort of continued on. Again, during the Cold War period, the CIA and the KGB spent decades on trying to perfect the perfect spies and assassins using hypnosis, but it didn't work. It didn't work because, or elements of it didn't work. Because for instance, I couldn't make you go out and kill somebody. I couldn't hypnotize you and say, right, the next person you see in orange, you're going to kill. Because obviously I'm working on the assumption you don't want to kill anybody in orange, but you wouldn't do it. And it doesn't matter what I said. I couldn't make you do it just now. So
that was one of the questions, actually. It seems like a daft question, but it was...
No, it's not.
Can people be made to do sort of silly things, or even, like you had said about sort of bad things if they didn't want to, but it just doesn't... You just don't have that power, or people have that enough control to just say no if they don't want to do it. By
and large, yes. Now, you might find that somebody actually wants to do those things, in which case they will. The other thing is that have you heard of Darren Brown?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, he's excellent and very good at what he does. And when he explains how the shows work and things like that, and he's got people to do all sorts of things, it's over a period of time. So, in a sense, I could help you to go and hit somebody over the head. But I couldn't get you to do it immediately. But if I saw you every day and I sort of were putting ideas into your head or giving you ideas that perhaps this person or type of person would be a danger to your family, after maybe about 6 months or so, you might consider hitting them over the head. But I don't have to do hypnosis for that. That's actually the principle of advertising. You know, see this thing and it's good, you know, you'll feel better, whatever it might be. Or politicians, they talk a lot about these things, and gradually you start to go into thinking, oh yeah, okay. And you just...
So, yeah, I get that. I mean, so fun enough, my next question that answers what's actually going on sort of to someone's brain, but you've answered that. It's almost a form of almost like subtle manipulation. Like they don't realise that they're being... It's like you're putting these ideas into their head. But that makes me think of these social media algorithms that we have now. Yeah. I mean, that's what's happening here. It's not brainwashing, but it's people are maybe they're coming up with ideas that they think's their own. Mm-hmm. But maybe it's not their own. Maybe there's an origin that's... Well,
the thing is that in terms, coming back to that question, what's going on, there's, just to put it very generally, our mind's made up of conscious mind and subconscious. Now, what hypnosis does is work with the subconscious mind. It bypasses to a certain extent the conscious mind. Because for most people, it's the conscious mind that gives you all the bother. So we do lots of things with the subconscious mind, which obviously we don't know we're doing. And again, another a sort of example. Have you ever driven somewhere and got there and then can't remember the journey?
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, you're driving with your subconscious mind. You're not driving with your conscious mind.
It's like autopilot.
Yeah, it's like autopilot. But the thing is, you don't crash, you don't go the wrong way, you don't run anybody over. And interestingly, there's research into that. And it shows, yeah, you don't crash, you don't run anybody over, or anything like that. In fact, actually, your reaction times, if somebody was to jump out in front of you when you're driving like that, is quicker than it is when you drive consciously. Now, by the way, I'm not suggesting you go looking for somebody to jump out in front of you when you do that, just to test the theory. And it's thought that the reason for that is when your conscious mind, in a sense, acts a wee bit like a filter. And it goes... You're driving along and it goes, oh, look, there's somebody jumped out in front of me. What do I do now? Oh, I put the brake on. Whereas your subconscious mind just goes, bang.
Now, that sounds a little bit like... I had read this book on anxiety, mm-hmm. and what you just said there rings a bell, because I remember it being something like you've got your logical brain, is that right? And the emotional brain.
Yeah, yeah.
And they've both got their uses, but there's times and places for each of them.
Yeah, yeah.
I forget, I think and I talk to this about my learners. To my learners, I'll say, you know, there's times where it's good to be logical about things and you take your time and you think it through, but there's other times where you've just got to be fast acting. I remember it talking about going back to our ancestors, right, or the early humans with real threats that, you know, the wild animals running at them and you just had to get out of the way.
Yeah, your fight or flight type of idea. Yeah.
That's I find that's a big thing that learners have a hard time with. For example, they're on a multi-lane roundabout and they'll suddenly realise that they're in the wrong lane from what I've, you know, for where I've asked them to go. So the logical thing there would be for them to just stay calm, stay in that lane, just go where that lane takes you and reroute. But that emotional response is like, and they just pull that car without a check to see who's there. And every time I have that conversation with them, when we're stationary, they'll say, yeah, that makes total sense. But then when you're in the moment...
That's because they become obviously anxious about it. And come back to the thing that I mentioned earlier, that when we're anxious about something, our ability to think diminishes.
Hi guys, have you been in a car accident that wasn't your fault? If you have, before you phone your insurance company, let me introduce you to Complete Accident Solutions Scotland, or CAS for short, our trusted podcast sponsor.
In an awful crash, don't you stress.
Get it sorted fast with CAS. If you're in a crash, call CAS. If you're in a crash, call CAS. If you're in a crash, call CAS.
Call us today on 0800.
So if you're ever in a non-fault accident, just remember Complete Accident Solutions Scotland has your back. Visit complete-accident-solutions.co.uk or call 0800 644 0174 for free impartial advice. All right, guys, thank you. Now back to the podcast.
Have you ever had an argument with anybody?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, when you have an argument with somebody, it generates a lot of anxiety. And an argument can go round and round and round and it get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so there's a lot of anxiety there. But when the argument finishes, for whatever reason, a few seconds later you go, oh, I could have said this. I could have done that. And the reason for that is when we have that anxiety, our ability to think goes like that. And the moment we stop, it becomes much more lateral and creative. So when people are in the wrong lane or something in the driving situation, I'm in the wrong lane and become really anxious about it because we don't know how not to be anxious about it in the situation. That therefore they can't think about what you say, just sort of going where the lane takes you, and doing, I should be in that one, and trying to go in it and causing difficulties. Principally because when we become anxious, as I say, our ability to think diminishes in that. And that's why confidence and anxiety are opposite ends of that seesaw. Mm-hmm. Because when you feel confident about something, then it doesn't matter what happens, you feel able to do something, cope with it. But also when we feel anxious, we start to focus in on all of those, I messed up, I've not done that right. And so that stays with us. So that the next time they're coming up to that roundabout, that's what comes into the mind. It's like having that hand in front of your face like that, and that's all you can see. And it just, I'll do the same thing again. Coming back to the golf, always on the 9th hole, I always chip it into the bunker or whatever, and that's all you see. That's what you focus in on, and right enough, you put it right back in there. And so when, again, working with people with a driving test or something similar, by the way, it's the same approach for any sort of test or anxiety-provoking situation, is to focus in on what you want to happen, visualize what you want to happen. Because another thing that happens is, in effect, your brain can't distinguish between a real situation and a vivid visualization of something. So if you visualize going around the test circuit, test area, and what's coming up, or what possibly could come up on that, and you do that a few times, it has the same effect on your mind and body as doing it actually sitting in the car.
So just imagining the worst is going to feel as bad as actually doing it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's what you concentrate on. So when you're imagining coming up to that roundabout, you're actually seeing yourself coming up in the right lane. and doing what you have to do. And you can throw other situations in. You can throw a sort of rainy day into your imagination. But by and large, it doesn't matter. If you're going to your driving test and you know this is roughly the driving test area, and you will have been out practicing on that you will visualize it and you will go around on it and you'll just feel calm and confident, and you will be able to cope with anything that comes up, not a problem. And so in a way, it doesn't actually matter if it's raining or snowing, or because you know you can do this. And then at the end of it, you visualize, the examiner giving you the certificate saying, congratulations, well done. And that's effectively the type of thing you can do. I don't know, do you have driving simulators?
I wish we did.
Yeah.
I wish we did. It would be a great way to get people started. But I think you get, like on your phone, you can download parking simulator apps, but not really.
The other thing is that with the hypnosis, obviously, when somebody comes to me, I have no idea what the area is like that they're going to be taking their test in. So all of this is just very general. But because the client is visualizing what's happening, they know what it's like. And I can talk about roundabouts, I can talk about parking, I can talk about hills, whatever it might be, but they actually see it in their mind. And that then sort of is ingrained. Have you heard of neural pathways?
The brain sending messages from one...
In a sense. Well, this and any sort of neuroscience or person will think I'm very simple when I'm explaining this, because that's the only way I understand it. On our brain, when we do things, we lay down a sort of thing called a neural pathway. It looks a bit like my arm with bits on the end. You can tell I'm technical anyway. And it allows us to sort of remember how we do things. And every time we do something, we reinforce that pathway. And that allows us to do it. So when we practice things, it becomes like second nature just to do those things. If we don't practice doing those things or think we can't do those things, after a while, that pathway shrinks. And you've done it, but you just can't remember how to do it. We're laying down how to do something. And that's the sort of technical aspect of how the hypnosis works, because you're reinforcing. And also when you're taking people out and they're practicing, they keep building it up, they remember. But so it's the visualization, which then helps you to feel more relaxed and less anxious, because you feel more in control of what's happening. I mean, it's natural for people to feel a little bit of anxiety, and a little bit of anxiety is actually quite good, but it's when it becomes the main thing, because it's reckoned from the research that I spoke about before that anxiety is the main reason why people fail driving tests, not just in this country, but in research from Australia, United States, here. And because it leads to these other things that happen, the sort of technical things.
If you've learned something, that information's stored. I've heard this saying before, and I might butcher this a little bit, but it's something along the lines of that information's available but not accessible, or maybe it's vice versa.
Something like that.
Is that a kind of thing where it sounds maybe that's the kind of thing that you would maybe help somebody with, where they know it, they've forgotten it, it is in there, they just can't access it right now.
Yeah.
It's available. somehow.
That's right. And they might not be able to access it for a variety of reasons. But again, if you're anxious about something, you can't access things. You don't remember things. The other thing is that memory, accessing the memory of how to do something, memory is what's known as constructive. Every time you remember something, you remember it slightly differently because you make it up as you go along to sort of fit the circumstances. If you're feeling calmer, more relaxed, it's easier to remember things. So therefore you can retrieve whatever it is.
It's a frustrating feeling of, you know something.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe a word or a phrase or a
Definitely.
whatever, and for some reason it's just not.
It's not coming.
It's not coming.
Yeah.
And then it just randomly comes later.
Just out of the blue. Yeah. I know that because that happens with me. And I know some people that when that happens, then they really want to dig into it and really concentrate on it. Well, perhaps that works for them, but that doesn't work for me. I have to sort of, okay, I can't remember that. I know it's going to come to me later on.
So just
sort of
stop trying.
Stop trying.
Yeah.
And it does.
It's a bizarre thing, the mind, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
A couple of questions here that are very similar that I just wanted to ask. You've answered the first one, which is sort of advice that I could give advice for learners, and you've said things like visualise this going well, visualise thinking about being confident and not thinking about things that's happened wrong before.
Yeah.
What about us as instructors? Do you think there's things that we can sort of say to them or get them to do that could help? Not so much physically, but mentally.
Yeah.
As simple as just telling them to, because I've said a million times, no, don't panic, don't worry, stay calm. But
yeah, yes, there is not only sort of verbally, but just the way you are in your body language, and so on. Think about the language that we use. I mean, just a sort of example is sometimes when I'm talking to people, I give an example of something about some feedback, and I talk about what went right and what could be done better, as opposed to what went right and what went wrong, because 9 times out of 10, people will concentrate on what went wrong. So what you could do better is automatically saying you can do something about that. And so it's sort of just thinking about the language is used. Being calm, even if you think, oh gosh, not them again, but just feeling calm, breathing. I don't know if you ever do any breathing techniques.
I've heard that it can help with keeping calm. I mean, I've heard that there's these breathing exercises that acts almost like a trigger, almost like a switch that gets flicked from panic back to relax. I mean, I don't know how true that is. Is there?
Well, by and large, it is true, because if you have a panic attack, one of the things you're taught is to breathe. That's the principal thing. So, for instance, you can do some very simple breathing techniques with somebody. And some people would tell you to breathe in through the mouth, or breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, or out through the nose, and so on. But I wouldn't do that in the moment. Actually, I'll send you some stuff. But just very simply is, if you feel somebody's a bit nervous when they're in the car or anxious, just get them to take 3 deep breaths in, so are really deep into their lungs. So for the count of 4. So the breathing in for the count of 4, hold it for about the count of 5, and then slowly breathe out for the count of 6. Now, what happens there is that because you're breathing deep into the lungs, the oxygen in the air that you're breathing diffuses into your blood supply really efficiently, and it effectively saturates your brain. So it just brings down anxiety because you're putting a lot of oxygen in there. Because most people actually, when we breathe, we actually shallow breathe. We don't breathe deeply. And obviously that's fine for most situations. But if we're feeling a bit anxious, then just breathe in. And there's variations on that. If for some reason you can't remember about the numbers and that, just remember that the out breath is longer than the in breath. So you're just breathing out slowly.
Taking longer to exhale than you did to bring it in.
That's right.
Okay.
And that will just take the edge off everything.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. Interestingly, if you're working with one of your clients, and they have to practice that. I mean, obviously, people breathe all the time, but they have to practice.
Because that's not normal breathing,
no,
right?
It's not.
So,
and it's very simple. You could do that a couple of times in the morning and a couple of times in the evening. And so it effectively becomes like an automatic response. If you're feeling too anxious, it'll just sort of kick in.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because otherwise, because you're feeling anxious, you can't think about doing it if you're not used to doing it.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, I think when this episode goes out, there's an awful lot of people who I do lessons with who I feel that they are needing more. They're needing something different from just going round a roundabout, or, you know, I would love to recommend you to all my guys. How could people find you? Are you website? Are you got socials? Do you do?
Yeah, I've got website, very lax with social media, because I keep forgetting to do it, and do a podcast occasionally about hypnosis and things in general. Website is. Do you want that?
Yeah, what I'll do is
I'll give you a card, actually.
If you give me your details, I'll put it on the episode that's going to go out, and I'll share it on my socials as well.
I'll give you a card.
Because I know there's a girl. She says to say hello. Her name's Karina. She's quite happy for me to. Brilliant, thank you. It's unfortunate that people have this hurdle to get over when they're learning to drive, because you can, from an observer's point of view, you know they've got the ability, but they can't get past this. And I've often wondered what it is. Is it a fear of failing? Is it, and I have all these chats with them and ask them, but most of the time it's just the minute I bring that notepad out, they use that word that you used earlier. They feel that they're going to be judged. Yeah. And I'm saying, nobody's judging you, we're just assessing you.
But that in that moment doesn't mean anything. Some people have a sort of sense of perfectionism, that because it's a test, you've got to do it perfectly. I don't know anything about the test as such in terms of how many wee little mistakes you can make before you fail. But like you mentioned with that first client, she did it perfectly. Well, some people will feel they have to do it perfectly, and which then puts pressure on them. And if they feel that I can't do it perfectly because I'm a bit nervous because I'm being judged, that anxiety comes in. It's like, or we've got to do the test if it's the first time they're doing the test in one go. That's it, because otherwise they're a complete failure, which they're not. It's just a learning process, because most of the people that you will advise to be put forward to a test will be able to drive. So therefore, that's the fact. We come back to Coué's law. That's the fact. But when they come in and start thinking, "Oh, I've got to do really well in this. It's got to be great." Or if I don't get this, then I've got to wait 6 months for another test. Or I've got to have so many lessons, and it's going to cost this, and all that. So that adds to the pressure, adds to the anxiety. Or if it's a subsequent test, because they've not passed the first test, which, by the way, the statistics are you're much more likely not to pass the first test.
Yeah.
And that's because you're anxious. But subsequent test is, I did this badly, I did that badly. So you're focusing in on that. Comes back to that, focusing on what you don't want to happen, falling off that plank of wood, all of that sort of stuff. And again, if they make the slightest hint of a mistake, that gets blown up, and I just can't do this. And they're right, in a sense. I mean, that well-known philosopher, Henry Ford, he said something, and this is to sort of paraphrase that, said, if you believe you can and you believe you can't, you're right. So if you start to believe you can't do it, then you start to notice things. And it's a thing called confirmation bias. You start to notice things that prove that you can't do it. And so, see, I told you I couldn't do it.
Yeah, we get a lot of that. Yeah, we got a lot of that. Do you know, it's been really fascinating talking to you. We're running over, so we'll wrap it up. But I really appreciate you coming in.
No problem.
And I look forward to discussions with people who I'm doing the lessons with, who tell me that they've watched this and that they've taken something from it.
Oh, that's good.
And I would imagine that you'll get a call or two from someone who's watched it.
That's great.
I mean, we've got 8 instructors within our school,
Right.
and within our school, we've got over 200 active learners at any time. So hopefully this can help them a bit, or if they need more help, then they can get in touch. And I'll put all your details on the
Yeah, no,
the
that's
screen.
great. But just in general for like your instructors and yourself, I can do some relaxation things with you guys, or send you stuff, or because I also with Katrina, I do it online, so we do sessions online or face to face. But because oddly enough, the online sessions are slightly more effective. Nobody knew that online, not just for hypnosis, but all sorts of therapy type things. Online sessions are slightly more effective than face-to-face. And there'd been no research. But obviously because of the pandemic, they came and said, oh yeah, they're more effective. But they never said why. I think it's because when you come to my office, it's sort of, you're looking around, you're not quite there all the time. Whereas when you're at home, you feel just more relaxed.
You're in your own space.
And that sort of thing.
Yeah, I get that. It makes a lot of sense.
Perhaps for you to share with your colleagues as well, there's another wee breathing exercise that I'll give you. And you might have heard of this. It's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you find one of your clients is becoming a bit too far out there and getting very anxious about everything, then you're not hypnotizing them or anything like that. They can just sit in the car and do this, or they can do it at home, because you can. All the things I've talked about, you can do anywhere and for anything, but they just take a deep breath in, like I mentioned, and then just slowly breathe out, and then say out loud 5 things they can see. So if it was in hearing, you were doing it. Obviously, there's me and there's microphones and there's cameras and that. So you would say that. Then you would breathe in and then breathe out. And then you would say 4 things you can feel. So it might be the backs of your legs on the seat. It could be hands touching. It could be resting, whatever it might be. Breathe in, breathe out. And then 3 things you can hear. So it could be the sound of a fan. It could be traffic outside. It might be a stomach rumbling, something like that. And then breathe in, breathe out. And then 2 things that you can smell. So the scent of a flower or cooking or something like that, just a sort of technical smell. And then breathe in, breathe out. And then 1 thing you can taste. So it might be you've had coffee or something like that. And then breathe in and breathe out. And what this does is it breaks any sense of what ifs, because it brings you right into the present, into the
reality.
present moment. Mm-hmm. And everything you've said and seen and felt and all that sort of is actually there. And it just sort of breaks a spell. You just come right into it. And obviously you can do that anywhere, but if you're say on a bus and you want to do that, then perhaps you just say those things in your head. You don't speak out loud, otherwise you might get some strange looks. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Something anyone can do.
Anyone can do it.
I can see. I get what you're saying. I can see how that would, if they are having wild negative thoughts, you know, or imaginations running wild, it brings them right back.
Brings them right back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Andrew, thank you so much.
No problem.
Really, I've been fascinated with this hypnosis for a long time, and to be able to finally speak to someone who knows exactly what you're talking about.
I've never been accused of that.
Well, the proof is in the pudding with, as I say, what was it, 6 years ago, I think it was, when we look back at the records.
Yeah. Oh, so can I just say, come back to the thing you mentioned about me not knowing what happened. That's actually quite a common occurrence for whatever I do. And when I was first starting out, I sort of thought, oh, well, that's it then. Didn't work on, you know, that sort of thing. And then maybe about a year or so later, somebody would come and say, oh, I live next door to Gary, and he came to see you last year and great results. And so I then obviously changed the way I was thinking about that. But it's, and some of the things I do now, I actually build in a session later on, a few months later, which is basically because I just want to know what happened.
Yeah, I can imagine that once people have come to you, they've got what they needed, they're off, they're away,
Yeah.
they don't, that's not what they need, they don't get back in touch.
Yeah.
So when we had initially spoken on the phone and you had said, oh yeah, I never heard back, I was delighted to be able to say, you, as I say, with this particular person, she was, when she first phoned me, she was quite honest and said, I'm sure she said something like, I've been trying for about 20 years. And she was so right at what she said. Because when I seen her driving right away, I just thought, you're not going to have any problems, you're good at what you're doing. And to then see her having these disasters on just because the notepad was out,
Yeah.
to then coming back from seeing you, it really, really was like 2 different people. And so that's why I've really looked forward to having this chat with you.
No problem. And also, I mean, I'm happy to chat with you, not necessarily on this, but anytime you like.
Brilliant.
And if you've got any questions, just send me a message.
I will do.
No matter how daft it is, just get it over.
And I do hope that people get in touch with you. As I say, I'll put if you give me all your details, I'll share them on the
sure,
on the page. But Andrew, thank you so much.
That's no problem.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you.